Just days before millions of Americans are set to lose pandemic unemployment aid, we're learning U.S. hiring dramatically dropped in August. The Labor Department reports employers added 235,000 jobs last month. That's less than half of the 7,000 jobs expected by forecasters. It's a massive drop from July, when more than 1 million jobs were created. This morning, President Biden urged the country to focus on the forest, not the trees.
While I know some wanted to see a larger number today, and so did I, what we've seen this year is a continued growth, month after month, in job creation. Some months are fewer, some months more, but always adding jobs. This is the kind of growth that makes our economy stronger and consistent progress and not boom or bust. We're the only developed country in the world. I'll say that again. We're the only developed country in the world whose economy is now bigger than it was before the pandemic.
Sarah Ewall-Wice joins us now for some perspective on all this. She's a CBS News reporter covering economic policy. Sarah, what sections are driving this hiring slowdown, and what does that mean in practical, real-world news for Americans looking for jobs?
So what we're really seeing here, according to economists and economic experts out of the White House, is the impact of this pandemic, specifically that Delta variant on the economy, and job growth is directly correlating with these rising cases of coronavirus across the country, which meant in August a dramatic drop. And what we're seeing is one of the places where there was zero job gains in August after it had really driven growth in June and July is in the leisure and hospitality industries. That industry was specifically hard hit by the pandemic and had been making a broad recovery. And then slowly it decreased because of the new variant, or as suggested because of the new variant here. And specifically in that, we saw a decrease of about 40,000 jobs with restaurants and bars. We've seen people who are more hesitant now than they were earlier this summer to eat in restaurants. They're slowly stepping back as this variant has spread. And so that is something that we've seen. Another place where we've seen jobs hard hit, the retail industry. People cutting back potentially amid concerns over where this country is headed with the pandemic. But also some of the jobs we lost were specifically related to food and beverage sectors. Folks were telling me many times they are really questioning whether they want to be in this retail industry. They don't want to be in these public facing jobs as this coronavirus pandemic continues, and they're looking elsewhere. So that's someplace where we did see jobs drop. And then another place that was actually interesting to me is we saw after a couple of months of rapid gains in the education sector, we saw government education jobs decrease in August. This is interesting because usually August you would think of as the month where there are increases in such jobs. In the past there have been, as kids are going back to school, already back in school, but we did not see that this year. So the landscape there has also changed, though it has increased for private education jobs. So really we're in uncharted territories in terms of what to expect. And also this Delta variant was kind of a little bit more out of left field than we could have expected earlier in the summer.
But we've been watching this Delta variant for weeks now. So how do the people who make these predictions not see what we're seeing, and why were these predictions so far off?
Well, I mean, they did actually revise some of these numbers downward. We saw 1.1 million jobs added in July. That is a terrific number by all accounts. And so they did actually expect these numbers to drop slightly, but no, they did not expect this dramatic a drop. And what this really does remind me of is what we were looking at earlier this year. If you look at the spring, you'll recall in April, we had suddenly had this large amount of vaccines out in the public. Everyone could go most people could get a vaccination, adults that is. And so we were really looking at those numbers and expecting to see high job gains in April. And then those numbers came out and they were extremely disappointing. And then of course we saw that growth over the summer a little bit more than when we had anticipated. But now we're back and we have this new thing thrown in, this additional factor. We've also had weather events factoring in. We've had a number of different things. And I think just the reality of where we're at now is, yes, they look at these and they take these into account. They're tracking it as best they can, but we've never seen a recession like we have in the past 18 months, and we've never seen a pandemic like we have in the past 18 months, like we in modern history. So they're working and they're trying to get it right, but I mean, the numbers have really been all over the map, really, in terms of what actually comes out versus what we can expect.
And it's been a really, really long 18 months. All right, so more than 7 million people.
Oh, yes.
More than 7 million people are going to lose their federal unemployment benefits next week, right? So with fewer people finding work, less government aid, are we in the risk of slipping back into some sort of recession?
Yeah, you know, there is serious concern about these numbers about to drop off. More than 7 million people losing their unemployment benefits will be the largest drop-off in unemployment benefits we've ever had in history, far more than a drop-off during the Great Recession. And those numbers are really going to lead to questions about how much people are willing to spend. And of course, that can fuel into, well, if they're not willing to spend, can we hire more people, or do we have to lay off more people? So that is a serious concern. Another thing to keep in mind here is these jobs numbers that we saw, these disappointing numbers this month, were something that the Federal Reserve is going to be closely looking at. They have purview of maximum employment, so they will be closely monitoring this, and they could be changing where they're headed in terms of monetary policy later this fall and into the winter, because we saw such huge increases in June and July, and then we saw such a dramatic decrease last month. So factors at play here. I will say that in terms of these unemployment benefits, the White House did suggest that states can use their relief aid, the state and government aid that was given to them as a part of the American Rescue Plan, to extend those benefits. I have reached out to all 50 states, and so far not one state has announced that they are going to extend those benefits at this time, and we're heading into the weekend where that cutoff date is.
All right, Sarah Ewall-Wice making a lot of phone calls. Thank you.
Thank you.